What works on the page doesn't always work on the screen, and sometimes they don't even try. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 differences between the X-Men movies and comics. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we looked at the long history of the X-Men comic books and compared things like character backstories, plot structure, and all the other little details in between to see how they stack up next to their feature film adaptations.
Hey, the professor can help. He can fix it. I don't want to fix it.
Number 10. Wolverine wasn't the one sent back in time.
So I wake up in my younger body, God knows where. Then what?
You'll need to go to my house and find me. Convince me of all of this.
In the popular story arc Days of Future Past, the character Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat, is the X-Man selected to go back through time to warn her comrades of the desolate future that awaits them. However, in the film version, the story was drastically altered to make Wolverine the one who would awaken in the 1970s and have to deliver the message. Comic book purists probably despise this change, but from a filmmaking perspective, this kind of makes sense. Wolverine's decelerated aging process would logically mean that he would be around during that time, unlike many of the other X-Men.
Would you believe me if I told you I was sent here from the future?
Number 9. Professor X was not paralyzed by a bullet.
She didn't do this, Hank. You did it.
The leader of the X-Men, despite his incredible psychic abilities and leadership skills, has unfortunately spent most of his life confined to a wheelchair due to a bullet accidentally hitting his spine. Or did he? In the prequel film X-Men First Class, Magneto deflects an oncoming bullet, accidentally sending it directly into Charles's back, thus rendering him paralyzed from the waist down. This was a radical departure from the comics version, as Professor X lost the ability to use his legs after a violent encounter with the alien named Lucifer, who dropped a large stone on him in the heat of their confrontation, which consequently crippled him. Number 8. The X-Men are considered superheroes in the comics. Saving the world countless times from Sentinels, Magneto, Apocalypse, and even humanity themselves on occasion, you'd think that the X-Men would be highly regarded for their heroic efforts. And in the comic books, well, they are. The movies, however, are an entirely different story.
You picked the wrong house, Bob.
In the films, the X-Men are always kind of just minding their own business when trouble comes and finds them. In the comic books, the X-Men are making conscious efforts to go out and help normal people, which they hope will alleviate mankind's fear of mutants.
Have you tried not being a mutant?
It's a shame that the movies haven't gotten to this point, and that we may never get to see Wolverine's iconic yellow and blue outfit on the big screen.
Some things you just have to face alone.
Number 7. The Phoenix came from space. In the comics, Jean Grey is taken over by an eternal force from the depths of space known as the Phoenix Force, one that completely controls her every move and endows her with unbelievable power. All of the Phoenix's appearances on the big screen, however, are altered, so that the Phoenix was instead a dormant energy deep inside of Jean Grey herself, one that she's unable to control when it finally wakes up. Although this change may have upset hardcore fans, the need to get the Phoenix out the door in the films without bringing space aliens into the picture kind of makes sense too, right? Number 6. Wolverine's height. Hugh Jackman has done an admirable job portraying Wolverine over the last 17 years. He has all the attitude, charm, and muscular physique to bring this superhero to life, but there's just one little detail that's left off. Standing at approximately 6'2", Hugh is way taller than the comic book version of Wolverine, who is a considerably shorter height of 5'3". The original casting choice was criticized because of this, but of course, Jackman immediately won everyone over, and audiences can now move past this important, but in the end, superficial detail. Number 5. The costume design.
Hey guys, flight suits.
In the comics, both heroes and villains have worn colorful costumes that were all unique from one another. Some have had such compelling designs that they have since become iconic and synonymous, especially Jim Lee's 90s redesigns. The movies have ditched this entirely in favor of a standard, boring black leather set of suits.
You actually go outside in these things? What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Later films would try to spice things up a bit, but the costumes never quite captured the look of their comic book counterparts. Simplifying the outfit design may have made the films feel more accessible to wider audiences, but in a post-Marvel Cinematic and Deadpool world, there's really no reason not to have superheroes dress appropriately anymore.
Salsa water and lemon for blood. Or wear red. Dumbass.
Number 4. Everything about Rogue. Many of the characters changed drastically when they were brought to the big screen, but Rogue is basically unrecognizable. She began her comic book career as an adult and a villain, very quickly gaining Ms. Marvel's powers, which include flight, super strength, and durability.
Well, alright, hun. Since you asked me nice.
In recent years, the comic books have taken away those powers, but they've traded that for making her a team leader and an indispensable hero. The movies mixed this up by making her a child on the run, always in need of rescue, and never doing anything really heroic. And landing the jet that one time doesn't really count. Seriously, Kid Rogue, can you stop screaming for just 2 seconds? We're trying to enjoy the movie. Number 3. Wolverine and Sabertooth are not brothers.
James, there are things you don't understand. I need him to know.
While these two animalistic mutants do share a long history together, they are in no way related. Among the many other questionable changes that X-Men Origins Wolverine made from the comics, like Deadpool for instance, this one is very puzzling. Maybe they were trying to form an emotional bond between the characters that would then resonate on the audience and get them more involved in the story.
We're brothers, Jimmy. You realize that?
Heck, they can't even be considered bros due to the amounts of vicious scraps and horrible acts they commit to one another. This also created inconsistencies with the first X-Men film, because wouldn't these two characters have recognized each other? Details, right?
We're done. We can never be done, Jimmy. We're brothers, and brothers look out for each other.
Number 2. The original X-Men team is a different roster. The X-Men lineup has changed over the years, with members leaving and returning to always switch things up. The original roster in their 1963 debut was Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Angel, and Iceman, something which the very first X-Men feature film decided to change. Cutting the team down from 5 members to 4, the group was instead made up of Cyclops, Jean Grey, Storm, and Wolverine.
Storm. What do they call you? Wheels? This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
The latter two characters are a serious departure from the original team members, as they were only introduced into the comic series much later on in the mid-1970s. This roster change definitely makes sense, however, so no points lost on this one.
Thanks.
Don't mention it.
Before we get to our number 1 pick, here are a few honorable mentions.
They say you can imitate anybody, even their voice. Even their voice.
I'm the wrong guy to play hide and seek with.
Who's hiding, dickhead?
This is my brother Scott. Hey, Scott. I'm Hank McCoy. I'm one of the teachers here.
Number 1. Mystique and Magneto spent too much time as good guys.
What happened to you? Did you lose your way while I was gone?
Many of the other differences on this list are reasonable to make a smooth jump from the comics to film, but this change is just straight up wrong.
Not all of us can fully control our powers.
Then don't. You need to embrace them. We all do.
Both Mystique and Magneto are considered to be some of the most lethal and dangerous adversaries that the X-Men have ever tangled with over the years. The last 3 X-Men films have found Magneto, the man who basically wants to enslave humanity, shifting back and forth between good and bad like he has a serious case of identity crisis. An even stranger change is how Mystique has now been given the position of leader and role model to the X-Men in the most recent films. Yeah, but no.
You're not kids anymore. You're not students. You're X-Men.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.